Shalom, friends. Today is April 13th on the Gregorian calendar. On the biblical calendar, we've entered into the fourth day of the first month, which is called Aviv. Aviv stands for the premature greenish state that the barley crop is in during this time of the beginning of this month. We don't really have the barley crop here, but in the land of Israel, this is the crop that is about to be harvested, and so this is where the name of Eve comes from. Since we started the new year, we were able to calculate now when Passover is and the other feast dates that occur at the beginning of the year. And it's going to be on the 23rd of April will be Passover. Therefore, the lamb is to be slain. It would be on the Gregorian calendar. It would be on Friday night. Going into Friday night, the lamb would be slain and the blood applied to the doorpost. And then the lamb is to be eaten as prescribed in Scripture, and also treated as per Scripture. In other words, no bone is to be broken. And this is reminiscent of Yahshua, who this Passover lamb symbolizes. When he was on the cross, along with the other two thieves, you remember the Romans, to rush the death of them, went ahead and broke their legs, but he didn't break Yeshua's legs. Same way the Passover lamb is not to have any bone broken. I've had some people say, well, how could you put nails through a foot and not break any bones? There's so many bones in there. Well, I guess they've never seen an x-ray. I work in x-ray and all that stuff, so believe me, there's plenty of space to drive a nail through the feet and not hit even one bone. Anyways, so we have the Passover on the 23rd. That's the 14th of Aviv. We are told to bring in the lamb on the 10th of Aviv. And also Passover. What does Passover mean for those of you that might not know? Passover is when the angel of destruction passed over the houses of the Israelites and did not enter. In other words, he passed over through the whole land of Egypt, but the reality is that he passed over the houses of the Israelites and did not enter. At least those obedient Israelites, and anybody else that was obedient, he didn't enter into their house if they had the blood of the lamb applied to the doorposts. Okay? And therefore their firstborn son was not killed. Neither was their animals killed, the firstborn of their animals. And because of this, also we have in this season, we have what's instituted is the sanctification of the firstborn, in which Father says, now because he did that, all the firstborns of the Israelites and the firstborns of your animals are mine. They belong to me. So those animals which are acceptable animals to be placed on an altar will be sacrificed, and those animals that are not acceptable offerings will be redeemed, as well as the firstborn children, because we don't do human sacrifice. So the children are to be redeemed also, and they're to be redeemed, of course, with a lamb. It's very significant. Yeshua is our redeemer, okay? And he is the firstborn of all creation also. He's the first fruit also, which we're going to get into in just a second. So this was institutionalized also, and these sacrifices, me and my brothers were just talking about this. We're not really sure the exact day, if there was an exact day that it was brought forth, but it says it's within the season, so figure it will be within these 7 days of the feast days. Okay. If anybody knows different, go ahead and leave a comment and fill us in. This is the beautiful thing about Scripture, studying Scripture, is it always leads you to more and more questions and answers. You think you know it all, and then you end up with more questions. You should never really think you know it all because it's unsearchable. Um, Anyways, so we had the sanctification of the firstborn also, and then right after the Passover, we go right into the 7 days of unleavened bread. The first day is a high Sabbath. The last day, the seventh day, is a high Sabbath also. And this year, after the seventh day, after the last high Sabbath, on that Sunday, which is one of the only 2 Sundays we're ever commanded to worship on, we'll have the day of the first fruits. That's the way it fell this year. See, it varies. It doesn't always fall exactly the way it did when Yeshua was crucified, because when Yeshua was crucified, we know that he was crucified, he was beaten, crucified, and buried on a Thursday. This is the only way you get 3 days and 3 nights, with him then resurrecting on the Sunday. And that on that Sunday was the Feast of the First Fruits. This year falls different. Why? Because we're on Father's calendar, and he's in command of the calendar. We're not on a set calendar. So therefore there's variations at times. There's either 29 or 30 days in a month, so that varies, and that could throw things off. Not to mention that there's also sometimes a 13th month added. The 13th month, I wrote in about this before. It's not found in you don't really necessarily find about the 13th month written in the scripture, but we do find it. It's written in the heavens, and it's called for by the heavens, because remember, Father ordained the sun and the moon for signs and for times, and they call for the 13th month at times, because we can't start a new year if we haven't gotten out of winter yet. Okay, and sometimes the equinox doesn't fall accordingly, so we have to add this extra month for us to start our new year in the new season. Okay, now one thing, some people want to say that Israel has only 2 seasons, the rainy and the dry season, something like that, which I find completely false. For example, here in Miami, it's hot all throughout. Sometimes we have a couple days that might get a little cold or something like that, but generally it's pretty much almost always the same. Now, does that mean that we're not going through the seasons? Of course we are. We're still going through the seasons, whether or not that it's seen. If we don't, like, the closer you are to the equator, the signs of the times might be are less drastic. For example, further up north, it's very obvious when it's fall time because of the leaves and stuff like that. That doesn't happen here in Miami. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going through the fall season, because what it is the sun, it's going through its circuit. So until the sun gets back to the beginning of his circuit, you can't have a new year, regardless of if you're not seeing any drastic changes in the climate or in your environment. We're still going through, the sun's still going through its circuit. We're still going through what's called seasons, the seasons, okay? So until we get out of the winter, you can't have a new year. Some people want to try to base their days, their new year on the barley. And if you try to base it on the barley, there's times that it's possible, according to their calculation, to end up starting the new year still within winter because of the barley. But the Father never said anything about the barley being what governs time. That authority was given to the sun and the moon, to the heavens. Okay, it's in the month of the Aviv, in the month when you have the month which is dictated by the moon. In the month that you will have this Aviv, okay, and this is usually always after, it seems like after the equinox anyways, that's when that's when the new year will start. So anyways, back to the feast days. Okay, so we had these 7 days of unleavened bread this year, and after the 7th day, that's when we're gonna be having the feast of the first fruit, the day of the first fruit offering. So this is when Yeshua rose into heaven and presented himself to the Father. Remember, he told Mary that to not touch him until he ascends up to his God. This is exactly what he says. So it's a problem for you Trinitarians. But anyways, we're doing all these the feast days, these former feast days, and it's a very exciting time. It's a great thing to have to leave all of the things that I used to do in my ignorance, not knowing the things that Father wants from us, and partaking in these days. So I'll put something out real soon. Again, go into more detail. There's so much to learn and so much knowledge and things to pull out from these feast days, from these studies. It's just never ending, and it helps us to grow and to learn in the knowledge and the grace of our Elohim and of our Master Yeshua. So I'll get back to you soon again. Shalom, peace.